teaching job, which I know
That was hard.
it was hard for you to do. You now, in a sense, have a full-time job in the company. I do all the wrenching and everything else. But the company got to a point that I was basically not sleeping and pulling my hair out, where you just was like, okay, enough's enough. I need to step in and help. I'm going to quit my team.
The company had reached a breaking point. Sleep became optional. Stress became constant. Nights blurred into early mornings, and the pressure of keeping everything running started taking a real toll. It got to the stage where it wasn't just long hours. It was unsustainable. That's when she stepped in. "Enough's enough," she said. "I'm going to quit my teaching job." It wasn't an easy decision. Teaching was stable, predictable, safe. Walking away meant stepping into uncertainty. Full-time, hands-on involvement in a growing business built around greasy engines, camera gear, shipping orders, and a fan base that expected consistency. But she did it anyway. Now she works in the company full-time. She handles the wrenching, the behind-the-scenes logistics, the parts, the grind, everything it takes to keep the machine running. What started as a YouTube channel had quietly become a full-scale operation. And at the center of it all was Derek Bieri, the man who turned Vice Grip Garage into a phenomenon. Through Vice Grip Garage, Derek became a household name in the automotive world. Every episode followed the same irresistible formula: find a forgotten classic buried in weeds, sitting in a collapsing barn, or sinking into a field, and bring it back to life. While most mechanics would have hauled them off for scrap, Derek saw potential. He didn't restore cars to perfection, he revived them. Budget builds, roadkill rescues, engines that hadn't turned in decades roaring back to life. Fans loved his dry humor, Midwestern charm, and no-nonsense approach. He made mechanical resurrection look achievable. He made it fun. But in recent years, viewers began asking questions. What happened? Why the shifts? Why the tone changes? Why the setbacks? Because behind the scenes, Derek's journey took turns few expected. In early February 2023, Derek was doing something he'd loved since childhood: riding dirt bikes on his property. He'd learned throttle control before most kids could balance on two wheels. Riding wasn't reckless for him. It was second nature. But that day, conditions changed everything. He hit a muddy patch and instinctively gave it more throttle to power through. In that split second, the front forks failed without warning. There was no time to correct it, no time to brace. He went over the handlebars, he hit hard. The damage was immediate: multiple broken ribs and dislocated fingers, the kind of injuries that don't just hurt, they limit everything. Breathing became painful. Talking required effort. Twisting, lifting, pushing, pulling, leaning over a fender, even standing for too long, sent sharp waves through his torso. For someone whose entire career revolves around physical labor, yanking engines, wrestling transmissions, crawling under chassis, it couldn't have happened at a worse time. Because Sick Week 2023 was only days away. Sick Week isn't just a car show. It's a brutal 1,000-mile drag-and-drive event across multiple racetracks in the Southeast. Competitors race, then drive their cars hundreds of miles to the next track. No trailers, no support rigs doing the work for them. Preparation is everything. Reliability matters more than horsepower. Derek had planned to compete in his 1971 Chevrolet Chevelle, but the car still needed significant engine and transmission work. Pulling a big block with broken ribs, impossible. Leaning over the fender was enough to make him wince. Most people would have bowed out. Instead, Derek pivoted. His 1970 Dodge Challenger RT, famously known as the vanishing paint car, was close enough to ready. Not perfect, not ideal, but drivable. So rather than sit on the sidelines, he adapted. Because if there's one thing Derek Bieri has proven over the years, it's that setbacks don't end the story. They just force a new plan. And that was only the beginning of the unexpected turns ahead. Is this conversation helpful so far? He loaded up and pulled into the staging lanes like nothing had happened, Broken ribs, dislocated fingers, every breath sharp and shallow. Most people would have stayed home. He went racing. At the starting line of Sick Week 2023, strapped into the 1970 Dodge Challenger RT, the now famous vanishing paint car, he didn't look like a man at full strength. Getting in and out of the car took longer. Movements were measured. Careful. There were moments on camera where he paused just a second too long, bracing himself before twisting his torso. Fans noticed before he ever said a word. They saw the way he held his side, the way he avoided sudden motion, the quick flashes of pain he couldn't fully hide. And then he did something that surprised everyone. He ran his best time ever in that Challenger, not despite the pain, but through it. When Derek finally told the full story in a follow-up video, the response was immediate. Thousands of comments poured in. Viewers shared their own crash stories, broken bones, setbacks, and recoveries. The automotive community didn't just see a mechanic racing a car. They saw resilience. They saw someone refusing to let a bad moment define the year. By mid-2023, Derek had largely recovered. The ribs healed. Strength returned. Shop life resumed. Engines were pulled again. Road trips restarted. Vice Grip Garage was back in full rhythm. But a few months later, something else would be taken from him. And this time, it wasn't just physical pain. In July 2025, Derek lost one of his most trusted vehicles, his black and red 1991 Chevrolet Suburban. The Suburban wasn't just another project. It was reliable, proven, a square-body workhorse that had hauled parts, towed trailers, and racked up serious miles. More importantly, it carried memories. Derek and his son Bradley had taken it on a West Coast road trip, the kind that goes beyond car builds. Late-night gas station stops, long highway stretches, shared conversations that don't happen in a shop. It wasn't just metal and rubber. It was time together. Then, on the drive home from the Yola Car Show in Wisconsin, disaster struck. While cruising down the highway, a fire started, reportedly in the rear air conditioning unit. By the time Derek realized what was happening and pulled over, flames had already taken hold. There was no saving it. The Suburban burned on the side of the road. It was a total loss. He made one thing clear immediately when he posted about it on Instagram. Everyone was safe. No injuries. That mattered most. But emotionally it hit harder than losing a crusty barn find. This wasn't a forgotten relic barely hanging together. This was a dependable truck that had proven itself across thousands of miles. Watching it reduced to a charred shell was different. Instead of filing an insurance claim that would undervalue what the truck meant and what it was worth in parts, Derek made a different call. He had VM Performance strip it down. The big block engine and transmission were salvaged and transplanted into another Chevy square-body truck, fitted with a chevron bed. The heart of the Suburban lived on. A loss became a donor. A setback became another resurrection. That's the Vice Grip Garage way. Don't mourn what's broken, build something that runs. But while Derek was physically recovering and rebuilding projects in the shop, something stranger was happening online. By 2025, he faced a problem he never anticipated when he first started filming budget oil changes in his garage. Rumors. Social media posts began circulating claiming he had died. Some fabricated stories of a fatal garage accident. Others invented narratives about illness, jail time, or mysterious disappearances. None of it was true. Not even close. The rumors spread the way online myths often do. Fast, unverified, and repeated for clicks. Derek addressed them multiple times. Each time his frustration was more visible. The death rumors bothered him most. Not because of ego. Not because of reputation. Because they scared his mother. Because kids at school asked his children what had happened to their dad. Because longtime fans were genuinely confused, believing something terrible had occurred. In September 2025, he spoke directly to his followers on Instagram. Calm, direct, very Derek. He said he was alive. The channel was running. The fake videos were nonsense. No drama, no overproduction, just clarity. And his solution to the rumors: keep working, keep filming, keep showing up. Because as long as there's an engine to fire and a project to drag home, the truth is simple. He's right there in the shop, turning wrenches. His approach to the rumors was simple and almost blunt in its logic: stay visible. If a video went live yesterday, he clearly wasn't dead. Consistency became the antidote to misinformation. Instead of chasing every fake headline or arguing with clickbait channels, he kept doing what built his audience in the first place: filming cars, posting updates, and showing up on camera. Visibility became proof of life. But while fake stories were frustrating, something very real happened long before the 2025 rumor wave. Before Vice Grip Garage turned Derek Bieri into a recognizable name in the automotive world, he had worked on cars for over 2 decades without losing a single tool to theft. That kind of streak doesn't happen by accident. It comes from working in smaller circles, staying under the radar, and not broadcasting your location to millions of viewers. That changed in 2022. Someone stole a $1,200 carburetor directly from his property. Security footage showed hooded figures moving quickly and with purpose. They weren't wandering. They knew where they were going. The movement suggested planning, not opportunity. Yet despite clear footage, no one was caught. The incident forced a shift in mindset. Derek upgraded security around the shop, expanded camera coverage, added motion sensors, increased exterior lighting. It was inconvenient but manageable. At that point, it felt like a side effect of visibility. When millions know where you work, anonymity disappears. Then came March 2025. This time it was personal in a different way. Someone broke into his truck and stole tools directly from it. His entire Boxo kit, a compact, high-quality set he often praised for its portability and efficiency, was gone. Along with it, a Milwaukee case filled with carefully accumulated equipment disappeared. These weren't random budget tools. They were curated, broken in, familiar. The kind of tools that feel like extensions of your hands after years of use. When Derek posted about it on Facebook, the frustration was unmistakable. Not theatrical, just real. The community reacted immediately. Comment sections filled with tactical advice. Install GPS trackers, hide AirTags inside cases, inventory serial numbers, monitor pawn shops within a 50-mile radius, scan Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace listings daily. Some viewers expressed anger. Others joked about hoping the thief would experience chronic mechanical failures. In the end, Derek replaced the Boxo kit quickly and kept filming on schedule. But the lesson lingered. Visibility brings costs that don't appear on a balance sheet. Reputation invites opportunity, but it also invites risk, and even that wasn't the hardest part. For years, Vice Grip Garage operated with near-clockwork consistency. New videos appeared every week. Derek would drag a car out of a field, coax life back into it, and deliver a finished episode with minimal delay. That predictable cadence built audience loyalty. Viewers structured their routines around uploads. There was trust in the schedule. Then, in mid-2023, the rhythm changed. Uploads slowed. Weekly became bi-weekly, sometimes longer. The comments shifted tone. Fans weren't angry, they were concerned. Reddit threads speculated. Was he okay? Was something wrong? Had interest faded? There was a reason. And it wasn't algorithmic. Before YouTube, Derek had already experienced burnout once. He had served as CEO of an automotive parts company, a high-pressure leadership role filled with long hours, operational oversight, financial responsibility, and constant meetings. By 2016, even the automotive projects he once enjoyed began to feel transactional. Work bled into passion until the two were indistinguishable. Therapy became part of his reset. He stepped away from corporate life, with the hope that YouTube could be different, creative, autonomous, and aligned with what he genuinely loved. At first, it was. The channel evolved from straightforward how-to mechanical content into large-scale rescue adventures. Abandoned cars in fields, cross-country drives, budget builds with narrative arcs. When the pandemic hit, viewership surged. Homebound audiences discovered the channel in massive numbers. Subscriber counts climbed past 500,000 and continued upward. Sponsors called. Television networks showed interest. Success accelerated. But acceleration has a cost. Filming multi-day rescues, editing long-form episodes, managing brand partnerships, handling merchandise logistics, responding to fan engagement, coordinating travel. Derek was spending close to 300 nights a year away from home. The channel that once felt like an escape from Burnout began resembling a different version of it. The pace became unsustainable. By mid-2023, he made a decision that frustrated some viewers but protected something more important, his long-term stability. He scaled back. Fewer uploads, more deliberate pacing, less constant travel. From a content strategy standpoint, reducing frequency can reduce short-term engagement metrics. But from a human standpoint, it preserved capacity. Because in the end, Vice Grip Garage only works if Derek is healthy enough, physically and mentally, to keep turning the wrench. The reduced upload schedule stabilized the workload, but the structural shift had actually begun 2 years earlier, when Derek made a geographic decision that fundamentally changed both his family life and the business model of Vice Grip Garage. Derek Bieri relocated his family from Minnesota to Tennessee. They purchased approximately 22 acres in Cornersville for $825,000 and branded the property Vice Grip Lodge. It wasn't just a move. It was a strategic realignment. From a financial standpoint, Tennessee offered immediate advantages: no state income tax, lower utility costs, milder winters. In Minnesota, temperatures could plunge to 38 degrees Fahrenheit, effectively shutting down outdoor filming and limiting productivity for months. For a channel built around revivals in open fields and roadside rescues, climate directly impacts output. In Tennessee, filming could continue year-round. Geography also mattered. Located centrally in the southeast, Tennessee reduced travel time to major automotive events. Florida, for example, became a one-day drive instead of a 3-day logistical commitment. For a channel centered on road trips, drag-and-drive events, and cross-state rescues, proximity isn't incidental. It's operational efficiency. The land itself solved multiple bottlenecks. 22 acres meant space for a larger shop, consolidated storage, and room for project cars without juggling multiple rented lots. Equipment, vehicles, parts, and filming gear could remain on a single property. No HOA restrictions, no neighbor complaints about engines firing at odd hours. The kids had room to ride dirt bikes freely. Compared to suburban constraints, rural Tennessee offered functional autonomy. For a brand built on self-reliance and mechanical independence, the move aligned philosophically as well as financially. For a while, it worked exactly as intended. Content flowed. Filming was consistent year-round. Logistics simplified. The property functioned as both home base and production hub. But scale changes exposure. As Vice Grip Garage grew past 2.4 million subscribers, audience interest extended beyond the vehicles. Viewers began analyzing background details. Road signs glimpsed for seconds, tree lines, landscape contours, public property records. What began as admiration evolved into investigation. Determined fans pieced it together. The property location became public knowledge. Uninvited visitors began appearing at the gate. Some were polite, hoping for photos or brief conversations. Others crossed boundaries, literally, walking onto the land without permission, treating the property as a public attraction rather than a private residence. The distinction between online familiarity and real-world access blurred. As traffic increased, so did security concerns. Theft incidents became more frequent. What once felt like flattering recognition now carried measurable risk. With 3 children living on the property, the issue shifted from inconvenience to safety. The original appeal of combining home and shop, convenience, integration, efficiency, started to look like vulnerability. Both Derek and Jessica recognized the exposure problem. Editing practices changed. Background details were blurred. Shots were cropped. Visual cues were removed. Anything identifiable was scrubbed from new uploads. But digital breadcrumbs don't disappear once scattered. By the time precautionary editing began, the location was already widely known. The address was already public. And once that line is crossed, you can't redraw it. Some viewers never understood the distinction between watching someone online and physically appearing at their home. Familiarity from a screen translated in their minds into access. For Derek and Jessica, that blurred boundary became unsustainable. By late 2025, the Tennessee property, Vice Grip Lodge, was listed for $1.95 million. 4 years earlier, it had been purchased for $825,000. On paper, the appreciation alone represented a strong capital move, but real estate profit doesn't offset persistent security anxiety. The farm equipment sold quickly. Project cars began disappearing from the yard. Inventory was streamlined. It was clear another relocation was coming. But this time, privacy would be engineered from the start. Future planning reportedly included purchasing property through an LLC to shield ownership records. Another concept under consideration, separating operations entirely. A dedicated filming facility, structured almost like a private automotive museum, distinct from the family residence, which would remain undisclosed and geographically isolated from the brand. The Tennessee property had accomplished its objective. It enabled year-round filming. It consolidated logistics. It allowed brand expansion. Financially, it performed well. But family security outranks operational efficiency. If your home becomes a destination for strangers, the model must change. And that principle reflects something consistent throughout Vice Grip Garage's evolution. It was never just Derek alone. From the outset, the channel operated as a family enterprise. Derek and Jessica married in 2008, long before subscriber milestones mattered. When Vice Grip Garage transitioned from hobbyist uploads to a scaled media operation, Jessica absorbed the infrastructure responsibilities: filming support, merchandise management, scheduling, sponsor coordination, logistics, communication. Operational continuity doesn't happen organically at that scale. It requires administrative discipline. While Derek was crawling through barns and hauling dormant engines across state lines, Jessica ensured the business machinery ran smoothly behind the scenes. She appears infrequently on camera, but structurally, she's foundational. Their 3 children grew up with cameras as ambient reality. Occasionally, they appear in videos, helping with projects or simply present during shop moments. But Derek has been deliberate about keeping the dynamic natural rather than performative. Bentley, who witnessed the dirt bike accident, extended the legacy independently. Little Grip Garage focuses on small engine repairs. Lawn mowers, mini bikes, go-karts, age-appropriate mechanical projects. The channel has surpassed 130,000 subscribers on its own. Derek offers advice, but he does not direct, script, or control it. The autonomy is intentional. Vice Grip Garage may be a brand, but the household remains separate from production strategy. As the primary channel scaled, monetization diversified in predictable ways. Vice Grip Garage now exceeds 830 million total views. Even conservative ad rate assumptions place annual YouTube ad revenue between $1 million and $2 million. That excludes sponsorship integrations, affiliate partnerships, and event appearance fees. Brand collaborations, including partnerships with O'Reilly Auto Parts, supplemented platform revenue. Paid appearances at automotive expos and drag-and-drive events added additional income streams. Merchandising became a major pillar. Vice Grip Lodge-branded apparel and specialty automotive products reinforced the channel's blue-collar identity. In 2024, a limited run of 10,000 Pray For Me differential covers sold out rapidly. Beyond revenue generation, proceeds supported new builds and charitable initiatives. The merchandise strategy was aligned with the audience, functional, mechanic-oriented, not novelty-driven. The brand matured into a vertically integrated operation: content production, sponsorships, merchandise, live appearances, and intellectual property value. But scale introduces exposure. Exposure introduces risk, and at each inflection point, injury, theft, burnout, privacy threats, Derek's response has followed a pattern: reassess, restructure, continue. The move to Tennessee optimized operations. The next move will optimize security, because the common denominator across every transition isn't ad revenue, subscriber counts, or even classic cars. It's family. And every business decision ultimately roots back to protecting that core. Merchandise has matured into a primary revenue pillar. Estimated annual merch sales alone approach $1 million, providing predictable cash flow independent of YouTube's ad rate volatility. That diversification matters. Platform algorithms change. Sponsor budgets fluctuate. Own product lines offer control. Real estate has quietly become another strategic asset class. The Tennessee property purchased for $825,000 in 2021 was listed at $1.95 million by late 2025. Even accounting for improvements in market conditions, the appreciation of Derek Bieri's net worth, which is now commonly estimated between $3.5 million for a creator who built his brand on budget revivals. As of December 2025, Derek continues operating Vice Grip Garage while preparing for relocation. The posting cadence remains twice monthly, intentional, sustainable. Recent uploads include a holiday special where viewers mailed gifts from across the country, a visible reminder of how engaged the audience remains, alongside new rescue builds that reinforce the original formula: find it, fire it, drive it. Looking ahead to 20 plans to build a twin-turbo Ford Falcon drag car, a high-horsepower project aligned with the performance side of the channel's identity. Slower upload frequency has not meant reduced ambition. If anything, it allows for deeper engineering work and more complex fabrication. Performance credibility remains intact. During Sick Week, his Chevelle touched 140 miles per hour. Not symbolic, but measurable validation of mechanical competence under real stress conditions. Select restored vehicles continue crossing auction blocks at Meckham auctions, where sale prices reflect both craftsmanship and brand recognition. That crossover, from YouTube revival to national auction stage, illustrates how content equity can translate into tangible asset value. But operational metrics only tell part of the story. After the dirt bike accident, Derek recalibrated priorities. Growth for growth's sake no longer dictates every decision. Jessica and the kids now factor into scheduling, travel commitments, and expansion plans in ways that weren't feasible during the aggressive scaling phase. Movie nights are protected. Holidays are guarded. Travel is evaluated differently. The channel is no longer built at the expense of home life. At the same time, Derek has continued reinvesting in projects and quietly giving back, consistent with the values he carried long before subscriber milestones mattered. He grew up on a farm in North Dakota, where mechanical skill wasn't hobbyist. It was necessity. Equipment had to run. Harvests depended on it. Neighbors relied on one another. When something broke, you fixed it, not just for yourself, but because community functioned on shared capability. Those early lessons, self-reliance, mutual aid, skill transfer across generations, remain embedded in the channel's tone. Vice Grip Garage may now operate as a multi-million-dollar brand, but its ethos still reflects rural pragmatism: make do, help out, pass knowledge forward. That continuity explains why the audience has stayed. The format evolved, the scale increased, the risks changed, but the core, a guy bringing old machines back to life and sharing what he knows, never did. Derek's philanthropy didn't begin with headline moments. It started small and scaled organically, much like the channel itself. In 2021, a Christmas drive organized through the VGG Nation community raised roughly $2,000. It wasn't a massive campaign, but it demonstrated something important. The audience was willing to mobilize for more than content. Around the same time, Nitto Tires contributed a set of tires for a project build, reinforcing the collaborative relationship between brand partners and community initiatives. By 2024, the charitable footprint had expanded. At an Oklahoma event, multiple vehicles were loaded with gifts for children in need. An additional $2,200 was raised to support struggling families. The effort wasn't heavily commercialized. It was direct, tangible, and community-centered. That same year, Derek gave away a Yenko Tribute Chevy Nova Restomod, equipped with a 6 liters LS engine and a 4-speed transmission, transforming a high-effort restoration into someone else's dream car. It wasn't a token gesture. It represented real labor, real value, and a willingness to detach from something that could easily have been sold for profit. In 2025, after devastating floods hit Asheville, North Carolina, Derek used his platform to amplify recovery efforts in partnership with Convoy of Hope. Rather than positioning himself as the solution, he directed attention and funding toward established disaster response infrastructure. The emphasis was coordination, not publicity. Each year, he also pauses regular content to honor veterans, reflecting on his own army deployment to Iraq and publicly acknowledging service members. It's not framed theatrically, it's grounded in lived experience. Much of his giving remains off camera. Portions of merchandise revenue are directed towards scholarships in North Dakota for aspiring mechanics who lack financial access to technical training. That investment reflects a clear through line: preserve and expand hands-on trades. Through Vice Grip Garage, mentorship functions as an ongoing contribution. Derek routinely answers technical questions, encourages practical experimentation, and demystifies mechanical systems for viewers who may not have grown up around tools. That same philosophy carries into Little Grip Garage, where Bentley demonstrates small engine repair for younger audiences. The instructional tone mirrors the mentorship model rather than entertainment-first production. The pattern is consistent. Derek's approach to philanthropy isn't performative scaling. It's incremental, skills-based, and community-oriented, shaped by his upbringing on a North Dakota farm. There, mechanical competence wasn't branding, it was survival. Neighbors relied on one another, equipment had to function, knowledge was shared because withholding it hurt everyone. The governing philosophy remains straightforward: use what you have, help when you can. Let the work speak louder than the recognition. For a creator whose visibility now spans millions, that restraint is intentional.